I'm welcoming David West, a candidate for the mayoral position. Hello, David.
Hi, Marge. How are you today?
I am doing very well. David, I'm looking forward to hearing the responses to some questions I have sent you. I'm asking you to respond to each question within 2 minutes. Okay. First, how would you describe the value of our heritage, and how would you like to see Richmond Hills 150th anniversary celebrated next year?
Well, heritage is fundamental to any community. I mean, it's the foundation on which things are built. And our heritage in Richmond Hill, certainly the thing that people think of is the old buildings and the last 150 years or so, and that's essentially a European heritage. Clearly our heritage in this part of the world goes back for a very much long time before that, with our First Nations, or with the First Nations people that lived here long before settlers arrived. And I think that's very important that we celebrate that as much as we celebrate any of the things that came afterwards, because that came first. But I also think that our heritage is also things that happened in the very near past. I mean, we've had very big growth as a community in Richmond Hill, and all of that growth has come from typically other parts of the world. And those are people that have arrived 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever years ago, but they're also people that arrived last week. And every time we have people welcomed into our community, they bring something to our community that we didn't have before. And it makes our heritage and it makes our community stronger with that sort of diversity. So the Richmond Hill 150 celebrations that we're going to be having shortly, I think need to really reflect that all-encompassing celebration of everything that we are in Richmond Hill, and with the promise of everything that we will be in the future. And to me, that's the way to celebrate it. History is not just something that you put in a museum anymore. It is everything that is around us. It's our built things, and it's the things that are less tangible than that. And that's what I'd like to see celebrated.
Very good, thank you. Second question. The majority of Richmond Hill residents are very car dependent. This has us with a large carbon footprint and thus contributing to the degradation of our environment. Do you see us resigned to live like this? Would you support changes to the municipal zoning rules to permit non-residential uses in areas that are now strictly residential? Should new subdivisions be designed differently?
So yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. I mean, we are definitely in a situation right now where we're becoming much more aware of the effects of global warming. We started out as a suburban community that was very car dependent, and we've evolved into something else, and we are evolving into something that's more urban. Most of our intensification will be along the Yonge Street corridor, and that makes sense because that's where our transit investments are, and that intensification can take advantage of those transit investments and help us to get away from the more car-centric society that we tend to be right now. Now, before that happens, before people actually get out of their cars in large numbers, we need to develop that transit system so that it goes where people need to go. And we're working on that, and we will continue to work on that. That's very important. But we are making a more transit-oriented development that moves away from single car trips, and we will continue to do that. It's better for the environment, where we can substitute active transportation where appropriate. It's better for our health. And there's many other advantages to it. We are evolving in that direction. We're not going to get there tomorrow. But the decisions that we make today will be decisions that last for a very, very long time, and they will set the stage for our evolution to a less, a more transit-oriented place. And so I think we need to do that. In terms of upsetting established neighborhoods, though, which is part of that question, I think we need to be very careful in what we do in established neighborhoods, because that is part of what makes Richmond Hill great. I think there are ways to gently intensify in some places in Richmond Hill and provide a benefit to the community. But I think we need to do that very surgically. And council right now is in the process of looking at ways through our official plan process, through our comprehensive zoning bylaw process, and through other policies like our community energy and emissions plan and our affordable housing strategy. So all of those things I will absolutely commit to looking at, but we need to address them all.
Okay, thank you. Third question. What do you see as Richmond Hill's vulnerabilities?
Yeah, we have quite a few. And I mean, it's not things that we should be panicking about, but it's things that we need to be, looking at carefully. And elected officials like myself, we need to be leading the charge. You had mentioned climate change in your last question. There's no question that that is, a significant threat, not just to Richmond Hill, to many communities, with increased weather events that are have the potential of causing harm to our infrastructure and our safety. I think that affordable housing and providing more affordable housing choices for more people, I think is a significant problem that people are becoming much more aware of, and not solving that problem has social and economic development implications, which would not be positive. So we need to get on that, and we are, and I will commit to doing that. I think we need in Richmond Hill and other municipalities in Ontario to be looking at sustainable funding from other levels of government to help relieve pressure off of the property tax base, because that's just not a sustainable way to build vibrant and great communities. And we need to be working on that with the provincial government. I think invasive species are actually something that we don't talk about too much right now, but if you walk out into our environment right now and look at the number of species, plants, animals, and smaller organisms that are not really supposed to be there, that are causing significant changes to our forests, I think that's something that I believe we need to have an invasive species strategy that we need to start concentrating on. And if you'll indulge me, I think the last thing that we should be worried about in Canada, but in Richmond Hill as well, is just the whole health of our democracy. We still only have 30% of our electorate voting, and it went up a little bit actually in the by-election, and that was great. But 30% is not something to be overly proud of. And with all that's happening right now, I think there's a lot of division in our Canadian society that I think we need to be bringing people together a lot more than we have been in the past, and really, engage our citizens to make sure that they're a part of building our community. And I've always believed that, and I will always continue to believe that.
Okay, very good. Thank you, David. Fourth question. Imagine there was a lottery for municipalities and Richmond Hill won $50 million. How would you like to see it spent?
Believe it or not, I think this is the hardest question that you've asked, because there's just no completely right answer. So I thought about this a lot. I think if the first thing that came to my mind was, if we had $50 million, boy, we could do a lot of stuff in a lot of parks right now and finish them off. The David Dunlop Observatory Park, the price tag to completely finish our plans on that park it's quite a lot of money, and $50 million would go a long way in advancing what we can afford to do and how quickly we can afford to do it. So that would probably be one thing. It will be a fantastic park. It already is, but it's going to get better and better and better over the years as we invest. But I also think that if the practical side of me, says, well, what could we do with $50 million to build lots and lots of housing that's more affordable to more people? And I think that's a very practical and important problem that we need to solve. So that would probably be a place to do it. And I think that also another thing that's a priority that, we need investments on is transit. Transit's very expensive. I'm not sure if the $50 million would solve the transit problem, but it is certainly a priority. And then there's a whole bunch of priorities that we've dealt with recently as we've tried to increase our sustainability in our investments in capital projects over the years. They're not as much fun to be talking about. So I think, if we won $50 million, my first reaction was, do something that would really be a noticeable and interesting and enjoyable thing for our neighborhood. I would have to say invested in parks.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our 7 fun facts. They're to be answered quickly and with a smile. First, are you a tea or coffee drinker?
I am a coffee drinker,
Okay.
and I have been trying very hard to cut it down to 1 cup a day because I find after 2 cups a day, I start to vibrate, and that's not good for anybody.
Okay. Do you prefer ebooks or real books?
Well, I must admit, in my life nowadays, I do read off of a screen a lot. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of reports that we have to read are electronic. But if I'm doing this for fun and I'm curling up on the couch with a good book, I would prefer a book with pages. I was joking with a young person the other day that you never have to change the battery in a book.
Yeah. Okay. Do you say ketchup or catsup?
That's an easy one, ketchup. I
Ketchup.
don't even know what catsup means. So
Okay. What is your ideal place for a vacation?
I'm not all of the best vacations I've taken in the last few years have been here in Ontario, and there's lots and lots of to see in our province, and even here in Richmond Hill and in the GTHA. So it's easy, it's not so expensive, it can be done in the spur of the moment, and there's no boarding passes or lineups at the airport, and I'm fine with that.
Okay. Do you have a Mac or a PC?
Mac. I actually don't know how to use a PC, but
Yeah.
I can function, but barely.
Okay. And what is your favorite vegetable?
Um, I guess the staple is the potato, I guess, and there's so many good things you can do with it. But I have to say, I'm a big fan of raw cauliflower, and that is one of my favorites. I don't know why, but that I also really enjoy asparagus.
Okay. Last question. Have you ever played pickleball?
No, I haven't. And there is no question in my mind how popular that sport is becoming. I've not really been a racquetball kind of guy, but I absolutely will commit that I need to get on the pickleball court within the next year or so to experience it for myself, because I've just heard so many great things from so many people. And I'll tell you, anybody that I've met that's a pickleball player is really passionate about it. So I need to find out what all that's all about.
Okay. Thank you very much for all these responses, David. I wish you very well with the campaign.
Thanks very much, Marge. It's a great honor to be here, and thank you for helping to get the message out from all the candidates.